Welcome to the Prime Health Podcast with your host, Dr. Derek Barron. Dr. Barron, Dr. Derek Barron. Dr. Barron interviews doctors, wellness experts, and healthcare leaders who are revolutionizing how we approach health and longevity. The Prime Health Podcast explores breakthrough science, personal and patient stories, and practical insights that are shaping the future of health and wellness. So sit back, listen in, and prepare to transform how you think about your path towards Prime Health with Dr. Barron and his special guest.
Welcome back to the Prime Health Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Derek Barron, and I'm here to bring you cutting-edge insights and practical strategies from leading healthcare experts from your journey in Prime Health in life and in business. Now, today we have an amazing guest in Dr. Angela Tran. Dr. Tran was in her late 40s. She gained 40 pounds with pregnancy. She tore her ACL, yet today she lives totally medication-free in the best shape of her life. And she is here to help women believe in it's absolutely possible for them to be healthy at this stage of life, despite the challenges of aging, hormones, and being female. Before we jump into the episode with her, just a quick message from our sponsor, Growth Solutions. Remember, we are here to partner to transform passionate healthcare practitioners into profitable practice owners without the overwhelm or guesswork. We try and do what we can to eliminate your biggest headaches, whether that's generating new leads for your business. If there's ever breakdowns in communications with your clients, we have systems for that as well. There's always operational chaos that comes in. So we've got some proven systems and frameworks at work. And yes, we do help with AI systems because they're coming whether we want it or not. So Growth Solutions is not a vendor or an agency. We are a growth partner. So if you've ever said this to yourself, I'm too busy to grow, too slow to scale, or too overwhelmed to fix it, we are your solution. Feel free to message me on any social platform and we'll get back to you on that. But you are here for one purpose today, and that's to meet Dr. Angela Tran. So Dr. Tran, welcome to the Prime Health Podcast, and please tell us a bit about yourself and what you do.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. I mean, this podcast is going to be quite a doozy because I'm here to speak to mostly women, but I would speak to men also. But I've been doing this since 2012 as a medical weight loss specialist to help patients finally graduate off yo-yo dieting, failed fad diet after diet year after year, to finally understand there's actually a medical formula that I've crafted for years to create predictable science-based weight loss, whether you are your 20s, 30s, or 40s like me, dealing with hormones, family history, all galore. So let's just dive in. This is a fun topic.
Yeah, we'd love to do it. So we're not going to talk about the grapefruit diet today, are we?
No.
Okay, all right, just checking. So I always like to ask this question. What was the moment in your life or when you made that decision that I want to choose a career in medicine?
This is actually a kind of a funny left turn, and this is both for patients and even other doctors. So I was actually that kid in first grade who knew I wanted to be a doctor. I kind of fell into that, the usual Asian cliche. My dad was a doctor, my oldest brother was a doctor, my other brother's a dentist. Hey, guess what? I just had to kind of fall in line. Yeah. Not that I felt the pressure because my parents were very supportive, but that was the only pathway that I knew. And fast forward through, college, medical school, residency training, only to find out that this was the worst decision I ever made. By the time I became a doctor, I was like, wait a second, this is not like Grey's Anatomy, I'm not like, saving lives in that kind of moment. I ended up realizing, am I really spending the rest of my life writing prescription after prescription, answering phone calls, lab results, only to go home and chart? Yeah. You know how that feels. And so I had honestly a moment on the classic highway I-25. For those of you who live in Colorado, you know exactly which highway I'm talking about. Was stuck 8:00 at night, knowing that I still had charting left to do and I hadn't eaten all day. That was like my defining moment. And it's like, gosh, if I had a family, if I had children, I asked myself, what kind of mom would I be? And that was actually kind of like my sort of hit bottom moment. And so long story short, I just said, okay, show me a sign. I give up, I surrender. And things led to another, and I got introduced to weight loss. And then I literally jumped with both eyes closed
Okay.
and been running my practice since 2012.
So that practice 2012 is what you are today. So prior to that, you weren't necessarily involved with weight loss.
No, I was an outpatient primary care doctor here in Colorado, and just the traditional what I had kind of envisioned, when I signed up to be a doctor in the first place. But again, they don't really tell you the day to day. You have this dream of just helping people and saving lives, and I was, but at the end of the day, I really wasn't because I only had a few minutes with my patients. I was so behind because of whatever, processes and systems in place. And then, at the end of the day, it was just all work. And in my opinion, I was also being a bad doctor to my patients. It was just, I had health issues too. I'm fairly certain my blood pressure was up.
Yeah.
I had a hard time getting out of bed. I literally lived the definition of Dr. Burnout.
Yeah.
So this is really for your audience of those who are kind of feeling the same Groundhog's Day, same day after day grind, but I can't go this way because I literally was going in a wrong direction if I kept going.
Yeah. It is in all the conversations that I've had, it's amazing how much of the burnout is out there. For myself, I left practice as a chiropractor. I left because I wasn't having any fun. And to me personally, depending on your thoughts on chiropractic, not you specifically, Dr. Tran, but people's thoughts, like it wasn't fair for me to put my hands on somebody's body, neck, mid back, low back, extremity, whatever it was. And it's not that I wasn't present when I was there treating, but I was somewhere else and or wanting to be somewhere else. And that wasn't fair to my patient. So I wasn't in a negative mindset state of what am I going to do with myself? Because I know that people have taken their life because of the certain situations. I actually was just reading something where a physician said the worst day of his practice is when a younger gentleman came up and said, "You killed my mom." Mm-hmm. And people don't understand how detrimental that is. And he didn't go to work that day for that to happen. He's just a part of the team that it happened to. But there's a lot of rough stuff that happens in medicine. So I'm glad that you found your way, that this is a pivot that I have to do.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I do invite other people who are kind of in that spot to reach out because not only do we experience burnout, it's one of those, we feel ashamed about it. Mm-hmm. And honestly, we don't even really have anybody that we comfortably can talk to. Yeah. And that actually includes, your spouse or close family or even your best friend. For a variety of reasons. So speaking to someone who sort of kind of went through that route, it's a big deal to talk to someone who has been there, done that kind of feeling.
Yeah. The 12 steps of mental health recovery.
Yeah, no doubt.
So I want to ask what, like, you mentioned yo-yo diets and things, and I said, the grapefruit diet. So what do you believe is the biggest misconception that people have about weight loss in women, depending on what their age is?
I think we all want that short, quick fix. I want to lose weight overnight kind of feeling. And weight is kind of similar to sort of like that parallelism of burnout. I mean, just imagine, like, particularly as females, we've all been on diets since the age of 20 or even younger, and then fast forward into our 40s, it's just, we're burnt out. But at the same time, sometimes it's that one area of failure while everything else, if you got your career, your family, your kids, everything's great, but this one hindrance makes you feel miserable. And so it's definitely a panic button. And unfortunately, we feel like we have to go to extremes. I think that's kind of the synonym for fad diets. It feels so extreme, but in our thinking pattern, it's the only way to get us out of this, quote, prison that we feel trapped in our bodies.
Yeah. So why is it that right now there's a lot of talk about GLP-1s? What's the stigma that's around that? And do you still treat people with GLP-1s, but in your own format?
Mm-hmm. Again, I've been doing this for a long time. Let everybody know I've been helping patients for years lose weight before the GLP-1s even came out on the market. But fast forward to today, this is being talked at every single dinner table, right? So again, shame is really sort of kind of the key phrase in this whole weight loss industry. And the stigma is that people still insist that GLP-1s are a cheat mechanism.
Hmm.
And the cool part about it is because since the introduction of GLP-1s, and please know that GLP-1s are actually not new. It's been researched for years, and it took a lot of years and red tape for it to hit on the market. So I think people think it's new, but no, they've done a lot of studies. And GLP-1s finally have physiological, legitimate treatment reasons for treatment of weight loss, such as insulin resistance, one of the top root causes that I deal with patients all the time. Insulin resistance is general, where your insulin is supposed to be turning that sugar into energy, it turns it into storage instead. So if you take one thing away from me from the GLP-1 standpoint, it's actually treating something. It's not a skinny drug. The second thing is that I feel like there are a lot of women, again, behind closed doors, don't have anybody to talk to. And then they explore GLP-1s, but they're either being judged by, again, spouse, partner, best friend, coworker, mom, things like that. And so my analogy for that is that, well, if you had a girlfriend who struggled with, getting pregnant, would you judge her by going to a doctor for fertility treatment?
Yeah.
That's probably the most important thing that I want people to understand about these GLP-1s. These are here to stay. Believe it or not, they're proving to treat way more than just obesity and type 2 diabetes. And so this is really just the start. Even me as a medical weight loss doctor, utilizing an actual, again, physiological medical tool, just like any software, to really enhance the treatment of your weight disease.
Mm. Mm. Will you go a little bit further into those last two words where you said weight disease?
Yeah, so it officially, obesity has been recognized as a disease on paper,
Okay.
but we're still not recognizing this as a society, right? And so there's so many metabolics. Let's say, for example, just personal experience. I gained 40 pounds when I was pregnant with my daughter. I'm only 5'1". This was really hard on my body. And then, of course, congratulations. My OB doctor said, well, gosh, now you have gestational diabetes. That's awesome. So, but I was very nauseated 24/7 all throughout first trimester. I crave sweets like no other. In fact, I was addicted to wheat thins. I know there are females out there that can tell horror stories of their first trimester. I called my mother. I said, I ran out of wheat thins. Can you go to the grocery store? Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to see my patients in the afternoon. I kid you not.
Oh.
And this was not my normal, right? I knew that, hey, guess what? There's hormones in my body. I'm not sleeping well.
Mm.
And so that's why I really want people to, they'll say, hey, Dr. Tran, I'm addicted to sugar. I was like, I'll prove to you that that's chemistry based. Hey, Dr. Tran, I just can't stop eating. Like my portions are through the roof. And I will say, I can prove it to you that that is chemistry based. So
Mm.
everybody is thinking, gosh, is there something wrong with me? I just didn't have that willpower gene, it just missed my, my DNA, but it's all physiology. So that's where we're talking about, okay, let's really understand that this is all mechanical. Yes, there's some like mindset and things too, but if you understand that you separate yourself out as a human being versus just the science behind it, then it actually can be quite fascinating and fun to lose weight once you understand the actual mechanics behind it.
Yeah. So you said a word there, you said mindset. So is in your experience, Dr. Tran, of working with these people, with these women and some men, but would you say that there is a bit more of a mindset struggle for a woman in her 40s, let's just say, that's tried 10 diets and didn't work, versus the woman that's 25, had a baby at that point in time and has got some weight loss? Like, the one that's 25 hasn't had the losses, meaning the struggles of the weight loss, just one episode of that, versus the 40-year-old has gone through multiple episodes of it. So is there a difference in how you approach them from a mindset perspective?
Very good question. So, both categories, whether they're in their 20s or their 40s, all have mindset related components to their weight. And believe it or not, sometimes it actually has nothing to do with food. So let's say, for example, common characteristics that I have, particularly in my women in my 40s: perfectionism,
Hmm.
overachievement, the need to feel in control, the constant anxiety. And when I say anxiety, it's like, are my kids are okay? I have to wake up early, make sure they get dressed and breakfast and sent to school. My husband's traveling. I have to make sure dinner is prepped for the week. My boss is breathing down my neck. I've got deadlines, that kind of thing. And we use food, unfortunately, to treat those symptoms.
Hmm.
Okay. A 20 or 25-year-old is still early in life where, am I good enough? I don't even have a job yet and I've graduated from college. I'm single. Am I going to be single for the rest of my life? I don't even have the confidence to go out with my girlfriends, let alone try a, stinking dating app that I don't even want to be on.
Hmm.
So there is such a pot. But here's the good news, that there's still a central theme, underlying pattern, where I can teach women to really understand who they are, separate out again. You may struggle with sugar addiction, but you're not a bad person
Mhm.
because of it.
Yeah.
And once they, again, it's back to the original. Can we separate the mechanics from just who you are as a being? And hey, guess what? When you fix the mechanics, then you're like, oh, great. Well, now that I have more energy, I sleep better. Um, I'm actually wearing my favorite clothes. Gosh, I'm like confidence. And then all of a sudden they're living what they're supposed to be living. So that's really the joy that I do. And it's so important because everybody is so caught up in the quote medication itself, totally missing the bigger picture.
I like that approach. I have to say something very like, you have such a calm demeanor in your conversation. You're very slow and deliberate in how you explain it. I'm going to get to a point in saying that, but it's around Halloween time as we're recording this, getting close to it. I
Mhm.
would love to have been a little kid and you reading me a Halloween book, how we're great with that. But this leads me into the point of trust. Women, whether it's their first time of saying, I need some help, or it's their fifth or 10th, how do
Mhm.
you feel you build trust with somebody that's had failures, or I'm afraid because my friends don't think I have a problem? How do you build that trust with your client to say, hey, let's take this on together?
Very good question. I'm so glad that you asked that. So, well, first of all, I did do extra training and I am board certified in both internal medicine and obesity medicine.
Hmm,
But
okay.
guess what? That's the least important thing that you need to know about me. My bigger certification is, you know, I'm a female about to turn 48 in January. Yes, I said it out loud. I'm okay with that. Check back with me in 2026. Again, Uh, I have a daughter. I know what pregnancy felt like. I tore my ACL. I'm an athlete. I'm dealing with perimenopause.
Hmm.
Diabetes runs in my mom's side of the family. Everybody's had a stroke. You know, Goodness gracious. I chose different parents, need better genes. Um, that's the certification that I want my patients to know, is this, that I'm in the trenches with them.
Mhm.
I'm not just a doctor with a white coat and here's a prescription, send you on the way, good luck to you, kind of a thing. And, a few years ago, once I sort of, got everything together, I decided that, okay, if I'm going to teach what I teach, I have to also live what I teach.
Hmm.
So I do feel like, yes, I am someone who wakes up and exercises at 5 a.m. only because that's the time that I can do before my daughter wakes up from school. And yes, I do plan my meals. Yes, sometimes I have to tell my mom not to come over, otherwise I'm going to eat her food. But then I let her come so that we can enjoy real, authentic Vietnamese food.
Hmm.
I have a pizza oven, and gosh, if I wasn't a weight loss doctor, I would probably open a pizza restaurant because I just love pizza. But I'm just here to just say I keep it real. But
Hmm.
at the end of the day, I tell patients the only person you should trust is yourself.
Hmm.
And I'm just a channel. And what that means is I'm here to teach you all the proper information so that you know how to drive the car. You can get the keys all you want, but if you don't know how to drive yourself, you shouldn't trust anybody. You can't trust the car.
Yeah.
You got to trust the driver. And that's really what I encourage, especially in this weight loss industry where trust is kind of almost not there.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, it's in many industries, but I can imagine there's many charlatans out there selling.
Mhm.
There's a new pill every week. There's a new potion every week when it comes to that. And it's unfortunate. So if you take away the GLP-1s and those types of products or the tools, as you say,
Mhm.
because there will be more that will come down the pike later. But have you noticed an increase in demand for people, for women looking for weight loss options?
Oh, 100%. Technically, it is the most popular interest is GLP-1s. Back in the day, I would see consultations for women who are looking to lose weight, but it is not a fault of our own because that's just the topic of choice these days.
Mhm.
But we start with just sort of kind of that superficial touch of what the GLP-1s do. But once they do, hop on a phone consultation with me and discover, oh my gosh, Dr. Tran knows me more than I thought she she would. I think I surprise a lot of women within the first few minutes. They say, "How did you know?" And then we really paint the picture of like, okay, congratulations, I can help you lose weight. I can do it with my eyes closed, but that's not the game. The game is for me to teach you how to lose weight and keep it off long term. That's
Mhm.
why people come to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. Where would you say a majority of your patients come to you? Are they locally? Are they regionally, nationally? Like, how do you see your patients?
Yeah, we're based in Colorado. We did used to have a brick and mortar office since 2012 up until March 16th, 2020. Some good times. But we're fortunate that we were able to pivot literally within a matter of days, and we decided to become a virtual online practice. We still serve Colorado. However, we partner with a company now that we can serve on a national level. So it's really exciting for me. But honestly, the cool part about is, today, this current times, um, social media and internet is a love-hate relationship. I don't like to live on there, but obviously I do because of my business. But the one thing that has me coming on these platforms is I like to teach. I do find like a lot of women will honestly been following me for months or even like a year before they even reach out, and that's okay. But they've seen me on Instagram. I've been on the local news as a regular guest. I've been featured in articles and magazines, and you can find me on the internet. But at the end of the day, um, I encourage patients, when you're ready, I'm ready. So I don't rush the process because I'll filter on the consultation. So I really will understand, are you ready for this commitment, or are you really almost going to sort of cause even worse problems by jumping in too prematurely?
Hmm.
So, but the most important thing is I just want all my patients to know that I'm in the trenches also, learning on the way, in my personal life as well.
Yeah. There's a quote out there that says, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Well, I think that you're teaching already, and every once in a while you're going to get somebody that pops up, but we still like it's a mindset thing. It's that when am I ready to make the commitment to change? And I think that's hard for everybody in all facets of life. But with
Yes.
weight loss, I'm sure it's a difficult choice.
Yes. Yeah. And sometimes you just never are ready, but you get to the point where even when I was sort of a burnt out doctor, I came to a moment where something has to change. And I
Mhm.
may not have been ready for what was to come, but I just knew something had to change. And that can be a defining moment for a listener out there, as we speak.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. What would you say from your business perspective? What are you focusing on? Like, how are you growing your practice?
hmm Trust is right there. There's speaking on the topic. That is really, again, and I don't mind. I understand that weight loss is the playground to be in when it comes to a business. You're seeing, online companies and clinics popping up left and right. We are differentiated because, yes, I've been around the block for, over 13 years.
Mm.
We are also, again, educating with facts to really sort of disrupt the noise from potential influencers that maybe don't speak correctly or don't have the credibility to speak. And then, we are definitely pro AI and technology, and we understand the efficiency. However, we still play the game of humanization.
Mm-hmm.
And so understanding how can we marry the two, because yes, it's almost too easy to get a GLP-1 from a robot. Let's just be
Yeah.
honest with that.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we be there in a speedy, efficient way, but humanize the process? And, um, for every patient that we enroll, they have a dedicated what we call SS team. It stands for safety and success.
Mm.
It just means top priority is safety and then success, meaning we create clear lines of communication so that we can sort of almost be in the car with you while you're driving to just make sure, that you're safe on the road.
Yeah. I love that. I've not heard anybody use that before. I like that, the SST. That's very good. And I'm sure that helps build trust along in the way as well. Would you mind, Dr. Tran, sharing like a success story with us of somebody that's come in, of a patient or a client of yours?
Yeah. No, thanks for asking. This actually is a recent one. So she actually tagged me on Facebook because, one of the Facebook memories, came up. And I think this was like a memory from like 7 or 8 years ago. So I love her to death. I still see of her, today. But she was someone who struggled with her weight for several years, and she was older, but she ran a nonprofit organization in Thailand
Hmm.
for children. And it was just amazing. I just really loved her heart. But guess what happens? She actually has to get on an airplane
All
frequently.
the time. Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest struggles, that my patients, just the act of getting on an airplane and then fitting in a seat. Can you imagine, whatever 12 plus hours airplane ride, and then by the time you get to your destination, then your energy level is down, and you know she just couldn't live out her passion. That's why we were connected. It wasn't because, Dr. Tran, I need to lose weight because I want to look better and I want to feel confident. Her reason was, I can't do what I was meant to do if I'm in this physical overweight body. So we worked one on one. Gosh, she hit, maybe like 60 or 70 pounds. like life-changing weight. We're not talking about like, okay, I finally feel better, I got energy. Like, her friends and family didn't even recognize her. So, and then fast forward, 7, 8 years later, she tags me because this is who she still is today. That
Oh,
is the success
wow.
story. It wasn't just the, hey, congratulations, you lost all that weight. No, it's because we connected on more than just a meal plan exercise level, so that she understood, okay, this is what maintenance looks like.
Mm.
So that's probably, one of my all-time favorite success stories,
Mhm.
honestly.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Like, I like the story that you told, and then when you came back and said years later, she is still that, the
Mhm.
ideal vision that she sees of herself of losing those 60 plus pounds. So good for
Yes.
you, and very good for your patient as well. So, I mean, that's a great story that you share, and I appreciate that. But now, for somebody that's listening to this or watching to this, what would you say to them that they're afraid to reach out? We kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier. They're afraid, they're fearful of what other people say. How can you tell them to just don't worry about it, reach out to me?
Yeah, I always say I get it. It is not an easy conversation. And sometimes it just means following me without talking to me. And
Hmm.
so I do try to communicate for those who, quite frankly, will see my content at 11 o'clock at night.
Hmm. Okay.
And so I think, as an advantage of being a doctor, I always tell patients, you can't tell me what I haven't heard before.
Hmm.
I've had a lot of patients who've dealt with, trauma in their childhood. I've had patients who've been in Weight Watchers since the age of 5. I've had, women who have had relationship problems because of their weight. So these are really heavy issues. And all I can say is that, our tagline, and just one of the things I'm really pushing for is that, at the end of the day, just realize this has nothing to do with weight issues. You just want to feel seen and be heard. And if I could create that safe space for you, then that's when you're ready.
Okay. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. What do you say is the vision for your practice over the next 3 to 5 years?
Oh my gosh, I'm just so excited. I'm still that stubborn kid. It's like, who knows how big I want to be. I know that I want to grow, and I don't know how big, or it might be just small. But the most important thing is I just feel like I have a message.
Hmm.
It's kind of unique. And again, I do dance in the mindset world, which is really not talked about enough or taught, um, in any of the nutrition. And your doctor, at the primary care office, definitely is not talking about
Mhm.
these things. So I just feel like, just because of all the things that I've gone through from a personal level, I want to help my other female girlfriends with the mindset issues, because again, we are all cool in our own individual ways. And it's just sad that we have certain things that have held us back from doing that,
Hmm.
particularly like weight issues. So I'm literally just a channel. So if there's someone out there who, kind of like my success story, is like, gosh, I feel like I was meant for more, Dr. Tran. I hate the fact that my weight keeps me from doing that. It's like, okay, well, let's map that out, because mapping out proteins and carbs is not your route. So that's what I get excited about. And I think at the end of the day, when I'm helping my female patients, I think I'm actually really just helping myself.
Oh,
So we're just building a community around that.
yeah. I love that. It's an interesting approach as to how you made that statement about helping myself along with the
Yeah.
others. So, um, You've been great on this. We will share all of your links to everything that you from social media to your website and everything. But if someone is interested in learning more about what you can do for them, how would you like them to reach out to you?
Yeah, they can go to my website at medfitmedicalweightloss.com. But I do tend to hang on Instagram. My handle is at medfitdrtran. That's kind of where I do a lot of teaching. Heads up, I'm totally goofy and nerdy. I don't know how to dance. I'm not really a TikTok influencer, but hey, I try and I get into the fun of it. But I think it just gives an opportunity for my audience to just know that I keep it real. I'm not in a doctor's office wearing a white coat. I'm just hanging out, trying to raise a great daughter, be a good mom and wife, and then, leave a message and legacy, once I'm done with all of this.
That's powerful when you like, I love the last word you said about leaving a legacy, and that legacy goes from within your family to your clients to their family. The stronger that you feel about the mission that you have in your business, the bigger impact it makes around. So I appreciate you sharing that with us. Two last questions, Dr. Tran. The first one is there a tip or a healthy, conscious suggestion you can give for the women that are out there that they could use this maybe today to help them on their weight loss journey?
Yeah, you know what? I always tell patients, we get so overwhelmed when we want to lose weight that we end up doing everything and everything falls apart. So we're cutting out sugar. Then we're, joining that gym that we never really thought we would sign up for. And then all of a sudden we're trying to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, which we have no time for. And then we go to sleep, but it ends up being at 11 o'clock at night, right? Everybody knows that.
Right,
Okay.
right.
So change starts with a feeling. And this is going to sound so simple, but it is going to be really, hopefully, poignant for someone out there. Okay. What I mean by that is you make a decision based on how you feel. Okay. So, hey, guess what? If you feel bad, meaning you're tired, you don't like what you look in the mirror, things are not going right. That's the worst time to make a decision. Okay. So, okay, well, what do you need to do to change that feeling? So how are you going to feel good? Okay. Be honest with you. For me, I like to shop. I like to reward myself before I actually get the goal. So I actually would get a cute outfit, fitness like leggings, or maybe like brand new shoes. Or maybe I would just finally get that facial that I haven't had in months or whatnot. It's just based on a feeling. And once I sort of kind of put my state of being in gosh, I feel good about myself. I think, gosh, the weather is nice. Maybe I will take a walk today. That's really how it all starts. And then all of a sudden, you know what? Gosh, I could probably walk farther than I did yesterday. Let's try. Maybe I should, start a steps challenge at work. It's sort of this momentum builder, but it all starts with a feeling. That is kind of like the one tip, but keep it simple. Do not cut out sugar and, dairy and gluten, and all you're doing is breathing air, because that's a recipe for disaster, right? So, if you want to change that feeling behind the change.
I love that. So that's a big mindset coaching perspective that you just covered there. I don't know if I want my wife to watch this last segment because of the shopping episode, but it's totally fair. I still want her to see what you have to say, which is good. Last question, Dr. Tran, is you're on the Prime Health podcast. I always ask my guests, what is your definition of Prime Health?
It's so cool because, that's sort of why I named my business MedFit, which is short for medical fitness. At the end of the day, I really wanted people to sort of be medically fit from the standards of the biomarkers as far as normal cholesterol, normal sugar, normal blood pressure. But really what that means is that, in alignment with Primal Health, kind of the sort of this wrap up, health is not the destination, it's the vehicle. So how can I be in my prime health so that I can live out the passion? And that's what primal health means to me.
Yeah, I love it. There's longevity medicine that's out there right now. It's the lifespan versus the health span. Do you want to live to 100 or do you want to live to 100 in good spirits and functionality,
Yes.
which is
Yes.
important. Yeah. Well, Dr. Tran, I have to say, you've been a wonderful guest. You are a 5'1" ball of spitfire. Okay? I appreciate that, the energy. I appreciate you sharing what you went through from a personal perspective, in healthcare and how you realized that there are changes. And you took a big leap of faith, leaving practice and then jumping into helping women with their weight loss. And as I said, I think it's got to be very rewarding because you help the woman and you hopefully help the family, both children, and potentially partner, husband, however that may be. And that's a wonderful thing. And it's the butterfly effect in this regards. And you're right that healthcare is something that's on the mind of everybody. But I think from a female perspective, it's very life-changing and altering. So I appreciate everything that you shared with us. From a perspective of people listening to this, I always say, please, there's one person that can benefit from this. We'd love you to share it for everybody, but share it to that one person that could benefit from this and see what Dr. Tran could do for them. So we do say to please share that. Selfishly, of course, subscribe to our podcast. We would like you to do that. But as we wrap up until next time, remember that true wellness is a journey that we are all on together. So whether you're taking charge of your own health or helping other people, every step matters. So I always say, please stay committed to your Prime Health journey. And Dr. Tran, thank you very much for being a guest on the Prime Health Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.